Good day, everyone. Thank you for joining today's webinar. A few housekeeping items before we get started. As a reminder, this session is being recorded, and a copy of the recording will be sent out after the webinar. We will take questions at the end of the session, and we'll also address them in the Docker blog, so please type in your questions and any comments you might have in the Q&A window, which you will find located at the bottom right corner of the WebEx. Please type in those questions and comments in the Q&A window as they come up, and our speakers will address them. I would like to introduce today's speakers, Rohit Tadachar, Senior Program Manager at Microsoft, and Dee Kumar, Director of Partner Marketing at Docker. I will now turn things over to our first presenter, Dee Kumar. And Dee?
Thank you, Melanie. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining the webinar, which is about how to modernize traditional applications and get cloud ready. My name is Dee Kumar. A quick intro about me. I'm a part of the product marketing team here at Docker. I have about 15 years of experience in creating mobile, PC, and cloud ecosystems spanning across mid-sized to Fortune 500 companies, namely Equinix, Lenovo, HP. You can always reach me on Twitter. My Twitter handle is @dsprinter. So most of us have heard a lot of chatter on microservices, cloud, and future trends on artificial intelligence, predictive analytics, big data, but the journey to microservices and cloud begins with Docker containerization. And we will get to how important it is to begin with modernizing traditional legacy applications using Docker Enterprise Edition or Docker containers as a first step leading to microservices architecture and cloud-ready apps. So this is a recent State of the Cloud report from RightScale that indicates that most enterprises are looking to move their workloads to multi-clouds without vendor lock-in. Enterprise IT leaders would like the flexibility of analyzing workloads and leveraging multiple clouds to host different data sets depending on different business needs. Long-term goal for most enterprises is digital transformation. Digital means flexibility, thereby allowing organizations to transform at scale. Digital transformation is a whole-scale change to the business, starting with business operating models all the way down to the infrastructure. Docker is central to the digital transformation strategy, and it all starts with modernizing traditional applications using Docker Enterprise Edition. Software is the lifeblood of any organization, whether automating internal processes or creating unique and engaging ways to service your customer. Every company considers themselves these days as digital or a tech company to some extent. To that end, many organizations are looking at strategies to modernize their applications, adopt microservices, and eventually move the apps to the cloud. But getting there isn't always easy because you have legacy applications and the environment to take care of while you try to do new, innovative things. Legacy applications are not meant to be thrown away and can be very, very useful, but the maintenance of these old applications can be very expensive and very time-consuming. Some of these old applications were written decades ago. They have millions of lines of code and require deep knowledge around the old code base, and perhaps the person who wrote the code might no longer be at the company. Most organizations do not have a clear strategy for retiring legacy applications, and they continue to spend up to 3/4 of their IT budget just to keep the lights on. The average company spends about 60 to 85% of their IT budget maintaining legacy applications that fail to meet the changing competitive needs of a business. 80% of IT budgets are invested towards just the upkeep of these applications and the hardware that is required to support these applications. These old applications require constant upgrades for better security and compliance. That leaves about 20% of the funds towards innovation, and it just becomes an afterthought. But we have a solution for you. Modernize legacy applications without touching the source code using Docker Enterprise Edition. We have Rohit from Microsoft, who will talk about how his team got on the journey of modernizing traditional applications and the successful results they achieved using Docker Enterprise Edition. The cool part about Docker Enterprise Edition is that you can modernize without having intimate knowledge of the code base, nor do you need to plan a giant development effort to modernize and get approvals from your management. Here is just a pie chart that kind of gives you the path to modernizing old applications. So the first step, and again, you don't have to take these steps in the way it is highlighted, but you can take the steps in parallel fashion. So it all starts with containerizing your old application. So you take an old application, you put it inside a Docker container or Docker Enterprise Edition, and then you are on your way to microservices, and eventually you get to path 3, which is the ability to move these modern applications to the cloud. Most of the customers are seeing immediate benefits and value when they start the journey with Docker Enterprise Edition. So they're seeing a lot of value around portability, security, and efficiency. Portability with Docker Enterprise Edition or Docker containers allows businesses to gain control and consistency by enabling write once, run anywhere that can be deployed on-premise to any cloud or in a hybrid architecture across multiple clouds. You can keep your existing environment, your existing app architecture, OS versions, components, and achieve fast, predictable deployment across multiple environments. As an example, if you have your app tested in staging, you can move it to QA, and you can be rest assured the app is going to definitely work in production. And that is the beauty of Docker containers. Security. So Docker Data Center, which is a part of the Docker Enterprise Edition, is a single pane of glass. And what that does is it provides integrated container management and security from all the way from development to production. Docker Data Center gives IT teams the ability to scale operations efficiently without breaking the developer experience. Docker Data Center scans the containers. It knows exactly what is running, and it only runs signed images so we know where it came from and that we can trust it. So the stats that you see here are primarily based on several customers who have been using Docker Enterprise Edition. So they've been seeing a lot of savings from a CapEx as well as OpEx savings standpoint. And they all tried using Docker Enterprise Edition to modernize some of the old applications. As you can see, some of the customers, they saw about 25% saving in terms of consolidating VMs. They also saw a lot of reductions in terms of licensing costs. The maintenance and support costs came down by 10x. And they were also able to deploy apps 75% faster. And the cool part is they were also able to take on new projects, and most of them saw at least an increase in 3x. I'm now going to hand over to Rohit, who will now share with you the success his team has had with modernizing legacy applications using Docker Enterprise Edition.
Indeed, it looks like we're having a technical issue on Rohit's side. So I'm wondering while we give him a chance to try and rejoin in, if now would be a good time to pause and see if the attendees have any questions on these portion that's been presented so far. So if you have any questions that you would like to post into the chat, we will pause right now and take those questions. And it looks like our speaker is rejoining now. Again, if anyone has any questions, please post that in that lower right-hand corner of the Q&A. I think one is coming up right now. I have no questions from us, but we're interested in hearing more. So that is great news. I did have one feedback, Dee, that they said that there was a little bit of a muffling, an echo sound when you're speaking. So I don't know if you have a headset that you might need to adjust, but that was a little piece of feedback there.
Okay. I guess while we are waiting for Rohit, one of the things that I kind of wanted to share with you all is we also have a tool called Image to Docker. So I would highly encourage all of you can try the tool. It's very easy to use, and all it does is if you have an existing old Windows application, it immediately converts it into a Docker image and modernizes it, and so now you're on your path towards microservices architecture. So we have two versions of the Image to Docker tool, one that supports Windows, and there's another tool, the Image to Docker version also supports Linux. And it's free for you to start trying out so you can start converting some of your old legacy applications into modern applications.
Okay, let me check and see. No other questions right now in the Q&A. Again, Rohit is joining in a moment. If you have anything to drop in the Q&A or any comments for Dee while we have her. Here's a question right now. It says, would Image to Docker require a certain OS to run the underlying containers?
No, not really. So our Docker Enterprise Edition supports all kinds of courses. So in fact, if you go to our website and if you look for Docker Enterprise Edition, we do support all kinds of courses. So you're not restricted to use a certain type of OS to start running Docker containers. I see another question. Are the Image to Docker tools limited to Docker EE, or can they be used with Docker CE? You absolutely can use it with Docker CE. So just for others on the phone, Docker CE is Docker Community Edition, and Docker EE is Docker Enterprise Edition. So you can definitely try it using Docker CE. But then again, if you are looking to deploy or manage or orchestrate an enterprise-grade type of application, then it's highly recommended you try it with Docker EE. But if this is more of a non-critical business application, then you're more than welcome to try it with Docker Community Edition, which is free and it's built on open source standards. See, another question, is Docker compatible with Windows OS? Yes, absolutely. So I think most of you know Docker did form a partnership with Microsoft in 2014, and as a part of that partnership, we have the Docker Enterprise Edition that's pre-installed on all Windows servers 2016. And so as a result of the partnership, our Docker underlying technologies do support Windows OS.
And Dee, I do not see Rohit joining in, so maybe his technical issues are running a little deep. I don't know, and while we give him another minute to join, if you want to kind of maybe start kicking off his slides, or, well, actually, I think another question just popped up. Is the technology backwards compatible with Windows 2012 or earlier?
So that's a good question. So we do get a lot of people asking about old servers and how to upgrade those servers to 2016. So yes, so the technology is backwards compatible. So and the reason we have the Docker Enterprise Edition pre-installed on Windows 16, and if you don't have a Windows 16 server and if you have an old server, then you can install Docker Enterprise Edition, and then you will be able to then start modernizing the components. Rohit is dialing in. So he's really, he did have some issues, but he said he's joining in right now.
Okay, and we'll give him a minute. In the meantime, Dee, I have another question that just came in. Hold on one moment, please. It says, may I know if the SQL Server 2014 is compatible to run on Docker now, and does it support high availability stuff?
Yes. Again, as a result of the partnership, we have been working very closely with the Microsoft engineering team. So we are looking at high availability use cases. In fact, we are working with their engineering team to actually look at some use cases and even customers who have very specific needs around high availability. So to answer your question, the answer is yes.
Hi, Dee. This is Rohit here with Microsoft.
Hello, Rohit.
Hi.
All right, Rohit, well, we have now given you the speaker capabilities, so you are all set to go ahead and take it away and share your presentation with us.
Okay.
You'll see at the top right arrow, you can be free to advance your slides at your will.
Okay. Perfect. So just to start advancing, quick question?
Yep, so at the top, you can see where it says 16. To the right, there's a little arrow, and that's how you can advance your slides. Do you see that?
Yep, I see it.
Okay, and you are in the driver's seat.
Awesome, thank you.
Take it away.
Hi, so I'm Rohit Tatatar from Microsoft, the IT group here. Here at Microsoft, the Microsoft IT specifically, is a very large group. It's probably the largest Microsoft-owned IT shop in the world. We have a lot of applications as part of our delivery process. We have close to about 3,000 applications, and our business needs essentially are broken down into what we call business units or functional units. So as an example, what we're talking about here is HR, finance, and things of that nature. So essentially, we own a lot of volumes. There's a lot of dollar transactions going into billions of dollars on an annual basis that happens through Microsoft IT. And all of this is managed via the different applications that have been created for a good part of the last 20 years, which is some of them are still running in production, as you may be aware. So with this context, where our focus has been within the last few years has been migration into the cloud. For us, the cloud is very specific. It is Azure. So one of our key focus areas of our leadership team over the last few years has been how we move our workloads into the cloud and be our first and best customers, and also really showcase the flexibility and the cool things you can do with Azure. So as part of that journey, we've been essentially focused on how we can move to the cloud, but at the same time, not just move, but what's the best and the most optimized way to move to the cloud, not just a direct lift and shift kind of scenario where you move your VM that's running on-prem to an IaaS VM that's on the cloud. That's great too, but at the same time, the cloud gives you a lot more flexibility in terms of what you can do to manage your workloads and run it very efficiently and in an optimized manner. So what does our framework, what does our footprint look like? So majority of our applications run on VMs, virtual machines, up to with 90% of it running on what we call applications on virtual machines, both on the public cloud and on actual physical machines. So as part of this, our large footprint is really around what we term legacy applications, about 25% of our footprint, really. And when we say legacy applications, what we're really talking about is applications that are critical for our functional units to perform, but at the same time, may not necessarily have a budget to make improvements or to grow or move into newer architectures and frameworks, hence the term legacy applications. So given that we have about 25%, which is a pretty large portfolio, even with about 2,800 applications that we have overall. So we're looking close to 800, 900, almost 1,000 applications that are legacy, as deemed legacy. And these require a lot of our traditional enterprise components. And when I say traditional enterprise components, these are, for example, AD, Active Directory with domain join, not AAD. These require WinAuth, need to be joined to our domain, creds and authentication happening through those pieces. Old 2-tier, 3-tier architectures running on IaaS. These are some of the things that we term as enterprise components, which have the traditional label attached to it. So with this context, where we were looking at what do we do? How do we, great, we're doing a lot of work that's helping us in the greenfield set of applications. We're able to optimize our VM footprint by writing some optimization tools on the cloud. But what do we do with this legacy set of applications? We were kind of at an impasse. And really, at that point, we looked at Docker and Windows containers, and they came to the rescue. And when I say they came to the rescue, what I'm really talking about is with Docker and with 2016 Windows Server announcing support for Windows Container with the Docker engine built into it, what we now have is a path forward that uses all the goodness that containers bring in, and now have a means to bring these legacy applications, these legacy patterns into modern architecture. And in doing so, we're able to run the infrastructure in a more optimized manner. We're able to increase the density of these applications running on the host and get a lot more benefits from that point of view. And along with it, of course, comes the goodness of containers, where you have a standardized VM infrastructure, the host VM infrastructure, and along with that, the portability and the usage, reusage of containers in general, where, as you're aware, you create one container and the same thing runs on your desktop, same runs on your production. So you get all of that portability with containers. And again, you're able to run multiple applications within containers, potentially running on the same host, and at the same time also provide the necessary isolation on it. So this really was very impactful for us in helping us decide what our path forward for our legacy applications need to be. So just a real quick little insight into our journey into containers. Once we decided that, hey, this is the right approach for us, especially for our legacy patterns and applications, we went about looking to see what should our path forward be. We looked at the vast majority of our applications, said let's apply certain criteria that gives us the best, that puts us in the best place to succeed and also learn along the way. So we had a set of criteria. I'll touch upon this in a future slide, and we coordinated with all the application owners. So essentially, this is all, we as our team, which is a software engineering team focused around infrastructure and cloud, don't own all these applications. It's our BPUs, our internal MSIT customers that are the app owners. So we coordinate with them in understanding what are the apps, which are the ones that are eligible to move into the container ecosystem, and essentially formulated a plan that allowed us to move forward with this. And once we had identified the set of applications, our next path was to start containerizing them. That's really the first step. So to containerize, we now have tooling in terms of Visual Studio 27, providing native support to build and publish into container. We have tools like Image to Docker. That's an open source tool on GitHub backed by Docker that allows us to containerize environment by pointing it to a VM. So now you have multiple options where we were able to containerize applications even when we might not have had the source code for the application, when we just have the binary bits by using Image Docker. Once we had the applications containerized, one of the big pieces for these legacy applications. So remember, we're talking about no touch being no application code changes in this migration path. So that's a pretty significant piece of what we're trying to do here, because once we test the application, then we're opening up other aspects. So as part of this, we still now, without changing anything, we still want to maintain, apply the enterprise configuration details onto the applications, right? So how do we do the Windows authentication? So and how do we do AD related work? So that again, there's a future slide I'll touch upon a little more detail of how we can use GMSA, which is a globally managed service account that allows us to be able to run these applications within the new service account, still leveraging on the AD pieces that are associated with the traditional application. So just as an example, we're able to do all these traditional things that we did with the applications, but now within the framework of containers. I'll keep moving on. Feel free to stop me. I know there are questions, time allocated for questions at the end, but if there's something that's that you need clarification on, definitely feel stop. Moving on. So essentially, we had this plan, we had our journey. So how do we move forward with this process, right? What is actually happening, and why are we doing this thing? One of the biggest aspects of containers, of course, for greenfield, for microservices, everyone's aware of how containers really help in that aspect of things. But where our focus in, as you might have certain by now, is our focus has been now to help in the traditional space. What do you do to help move your traditional applications, bring it into more modern architecture, and in the process, really help with two aspects. One is to run it in a more optimized manner, and two, provide the path forward through things like the Strangler pattern and modern methodologies to bring the applications into your DevOps model. That's another critical piece, right? We can all run DevOps, but if it's only applicable to the new applications, you're leaving a significant footprint of applications out that's not brought into your Agile process and methodologies. With containers, now you're able to do that. You're able to bring your legacy applications, apply CI/CD and other DevOps best practices, and now you have a common best practice that you can use to span both greenfield and traditional applications. And once you have these applications running, currently as part of a monolith, if that's how they were designed originally, now you have another option to then look at the application, because it's part of your DevOps model, to take a look at that and say, hey, I see these little services that are really critical in this application. Can I just extract those applications, those services out from my monolith application and start creating more microservices around it, which is what is referred to as the Strangler pattern. And that way, then really I've taken out what's really crucial from the application point of view. I'm able to run it in an agile and more modern way, a more optimized manner, and still be able to say finally, hey, this application, I've extracted all the critical pieces, and these are running as I want in a microservice. The rest of the application can can be left as is or can even be sunsetted in different scenarios. So it allows us for bringing a traditional application, which a lot of our portfolios is, into more modern, integrated into CI/CD and Agile and DevOps methodology, and finally leading into the microservices pathway. So that is a very powerful reason for us in choosing this path forward. And as I mentioned earlier, selecting criteria, the first set of criteria, we looked at and we said, hey, let's tackle the easy ones first. Let's not go after the hardest initially. So we learn along the way. We make sure that we have we succeed. We put our best foot forward. So what we did essentially, and we've kind of gone past this now. This is our initial sort of criteria where we said, hey, let's look at just a web and app tier. We're not looking at the SQL portion of it for now. Let's look at applications that was running 6.0 IIS and higher with .NET Framework 3.5 running 2008 servers. So some basic criteria that we had selected for our initial set of candidates. And that's something that I would recommend for people. Start easy, learn, get your feet wet, and then move on to the more complex scenarios as you understand what are the best things that that containers are good at, and some maybe not right now. Where, for example, if your application requires driver access and things like that, those are still either not supported or very hard to do. Moving forward, just a quick insight into what were the initial results from the sort of 10 applications that we had selected. So again, these 10 applications were picked applying the criteria that I just mentioned, and what we were able to do is run them at 4 times the density. So what that means is we were able to run each of these applications is containerized, so they're in a single container. Not multiple containers. So what we are able to run is 4 applications on a single VM. That's what we mean by 4 times density. Again, these were running on VMs these results are without even running them on an orchestrator. We have results with the orchestrator that we will share shortly, but just containerizing them, running them in a more dense manner is giving us a third of cost. So we already see cost savings by a third, and being able to deploy these a lot faster, bringing the CI/CD in place. So essentially, where these applications might have been updated once every quarter or once every 6 months because no one really wanted to touch them, we're now able to bring them into our CI/CD and do deployments if need be automatically, although there's not actually a lot of code application changes happening to these apps directly. So this is a very high-level initial results that we're optimizing on this. We're running the workloads on orchestrators, Docker E, and things like that, which allow us to even improve on these results. We're confident we can run at a lot higher density than this, leveraging the intelligence that the orchestrator brings in and helps with not only providing better costs, but also being able to provide for, again, the failure scenarios and things like that. So given the initial results, this is a work in progress for us, both in terms of getting more applications into containers and also in the same process, improving on our processes, improving on our performance, improving our optimization. So the work really doesn't stop. We've picked 10 applications. The next set for our initial phase 1 is we're targeting 50 applications. So we've touched 10, the remaining 40 are underway, and we'll present results and things once this is complete. But what we're looking now to do is being able to run at scale, really having things integrated through the entire pipeline CI/CD process. So anything from patching to app deployment, all of these new images being created are automatically brought into the CI/CD process. And when a new image comes in that's patched, we automatically pull that, and it's available through the entire CI/CD. So running at scale is a very different process from running actually just on-prem or for pre-production scenarios. So this is really critical from that point of view, and enabling this helps not only with the aspect of running at the most optimal manner, but running at scale. And these two are critical components as related to the production environment, right? So productionizing these workloads are really the next most critical aspect. Yes, you have your applications containerized, but what good is it if it's only pre-production environments? You really want your entire environment to be running on containers, because that's the promise of containers. So what we're looking to do is integrated with, as the end-to-end process comes in, the security implications, and everything else that comes with productionizing, scanning your images, running Docker security scanning, and leveraging the other aspects of Docker EE really help in us being able to be ready for production loads. And finally, what our goal here is in this journey of ours to achieve the digital transformation, right? Today we're in a stage where we can focus our applications entirely on running on the cloud without even having to worry about the infrastructure layer. And in that process, containers help us to get there. And where we are today, using tools like Image2Docker, Visual Studio, BSTS, help us, Docker EE, the entire Docker portfolio, really help us in enabling taking our workloads, especially the legacy workloads, and running them in a more optimized and a more performance-oriented, secure manner for containers. And really, the promise of the cloud is being achieved through this in many extent. So that was at a high level what we have done, what we're doing. I have a couple more slides that go into a little more details around how we achieve some of our legacy patterns. And this is really the more compelling reason for us to be able to say, hey, I can now take applications that are running on a 2003 server, running old .NET Framework and IIS versions, and be able to run it on 2016 server is really very powerful and compelling for us, taking those legacy patterns and applying them. And that's one of the reasons where containers are so critical in making this a reality. So this example really is about how we take a domain joined, Windows authenticated AD and be able to get that host joined to the domain. Again, the container does not join the domain, it's the host that's joining the domain. And where we're able to achieve that is using what I mentioned earlier, which was the GMSA, which is a globally managed service account. GMSA was a feature that was released with Windows Server 2012, R2, I believe. And using that, what you're able to do is now run your services as the GMSA service, and use the service to be passed into the container via the host through something called a cred spec, which is the details that get passed to your container regarding your service managed accounts. And now your application runs under these credentials. So nowhere is your password stored within your container or anywhere else. Your application works as is. Your GMSA is already created to run both your database or any other application related accounts, and this works seamlessly across the board for your AD Windows authentication. So this is really powerful, wherein we have a lot of other PaaS and newer technology options where you could publish into a web app, you could write an Azure function, do a lot of similar things, but then you would need to take care of AD and your Windows authentication because these work with AAD. So if you're prepared to do those things, that's a lot of work where you're almost rewriting your application. But in this case, we're still able to run the application as is using the AD credits, but still running within containers. Again, this is a very powerful and compelling reason for us to move forward. Here's a link to some of how we do the legacy pattern mapping and some of the resources that we have. All our lessons learned are all available here, so you can watch YouTube videos or go to our blogs to get more details on these. And of course, be happy to share our learnings as we learn, as we grow, and as we learn more. I think that's probably my last slide. Dee, is that back to you?
Hi, Roy, it's Melanie. I will go ahead and take it from here. If that is your last slide, then I will ask if there's any questions or comments from the group for Rohit. I'll give you a moment here. We'll pause and see if there's any questions. If there are, please, again, post them in the Q&A window that you'll find in the lower right-hand corner. And while we're waiting for that, just a reminder that you can go to blog.docker.com to get more information about this webinar, as well as the answers to any of the questions that were addressed today. We'll be posting that blog site as well. That blog will be up and running by next Wednesday. And when you go to blog.docker.com, you can search by topic or author to find the topic that you are looking for. Okay, I'm not seeing any questions. So again, thank you, Dee, thank you, Rohit, and thank you all for joining today. This